really, really good speakers that have done this in various guises and done some really, really interesting, amazing things. And I would love to sit here and talk about that all night, but these guys are here to do it for themselves. So, first speaker is Eyal Halamish from OurSay, and yeah, he's got quite a story, so strap yourselves in.
Thank you. Do I have to tug the mic? Or, yeah, go for it. All right, everybody move forward. Move forward. I want you to block the cameras and say a lot of profanities, and I don't want them to record this, so I need you to move forward. Even if you're sitting in the back, this is not a casual affair, it's active. Come on up, come to the front. Also, as you're coming up, Raul was saying that he saw Al Green speak, and I don't think I'll be, although I'm American, I don't think I'll have the same, pizzazz as him, but he made people say a lot of hallelujahs. So, and I did Bikram yoga this morning, and I'm really tired, and so I need a couple of hallelujahs to rel me up. So hallelujah! 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 Wow, religious gospel, pretty soon we'll all be Christian. Everybody move up, move up. Move up, further. I want see this little gap right here? Feel it. Just step into it. Step into it.
Come on, do it.
Who's gonna be first? Yep. You guys seen that TED video with the first follower and all that? Now fill them in. All right, great. So fill in the gap. So I was training today, and I have a personal trainer to keep me focused on what's important in life. And he said to me, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I'm speaking at this event about disruption. He says, disruption? I said, yeah, I'm going to talk about 3 things. I'm going to talk about disrupting my life, disrupting other people's lives, and disrupting the world. And he's like, you a terrorist? I was like, no. But now it's got me thinking. Don't think about it for too long, because when I thought about it for really long, I started questioning, what's going on here? And so the word disruption is actually a really odd thing. It's when you think about disruption, people think, oh, that's negative. We don't want to disrupt our lives. In fact, most of us would prefer to kind of be born and then, meet some other people, eat some food, poop, procreate, then die, and just let that kind of repeat itself and hope that our offspring enjoy the next ride. And disruption would actually take us out of our comfort zone. In fact, I think disruption for good. So disruption is actually about getting uncomfortable. And when you're in that state of discomfort, you start to struggle a little bit of, do I like it here? And if you struggle, then you actually start to progress. So I think disruption is actually meaningful progression, So we disrupt our lives to find meaning in our lives and then progress. So I want to tell you 3 stories. The first one is about me disrupting my life. So I'm originally from the suburbs of Chicago. I moved here about 6 years ago. I moved here for love. I stayed for everything else. And people always say to me that everywhere I go, I end up landing on my feet. And so when I got here, I got a pretty nice, cushy job working as a management consultant. And it was awesome. I'm the kind of person who loves big ideas, big issues. When I was in America, I was a political activist. I got involved in politics. I got involved in a lot of big issues, social justice, environmental justice, all the likes. And I even worked in foreign affairs in Washington, D.C. as a lobbyist for a while, and I thought big issues is where it's at. You want to be impacting the big issues. And so when I got to Australia and I got this gig in a management consultancy, I thought, wow, this is awesome. So my job was to go and speak to people in different parts of Australia who were concerned about large-scale industrial developments, mining developments, energy developments, oil, gas. And my role was to translate these people's concerns and then write these really long, 60, 100-page reports and give them to senior executives and try to change their decisions, try to influence their decision-making about these projects. I thought, this is great. This is my chance to actually work within, to be that entrepreneur, that person who can really change the way things work. And I was traveling around the country. I got to see all of Australia and parts of the Asia Pacific. I was going to conferences in Indonesia, and I was really loving it. I was getting paid really, really well. And I was like, wow, I didn't know you get paid to make social change. And just like every person who enters into a new job, at first you have this amazing will to change. Like, I can do anything in here. This is the best job in the world. And as time goes on, that will to change drops. Because you meet these cavemen and cavewomen, these colleagues against virtually everything. And every time you come up with a new idea, they say, oh no, we don't do that like here. That's not how it works here. Or that's not going to work, or that'll never fly. Ask Roger. No, he won't let it go through. And so as I got more and more cavemen coming and blocking my way, I started to lose sight of the impact that we were creating. And while the paycheck kept increasing, the impact seemed to decrease. And it gets to that certain tipping point where you say, am I really doing what I love? And you start to look to other places. And so your heart folds to different pockets. And so I signed up for a leadership course. And through this course, I met some other people, and we decided, why don't we create this cool platform where you could take ideas from those people in the streets and get them directly to those in the halls of power in a much faster and more efficient way. And I thought, yeah, that was that big thing that I wanted to do, that I was really passionate about when I got here. So let's start building that thing. And we built this side project, and so it was 9 to 5 I was working as a management consultant, but 5 to 9 I was working on that thing that really burned inside of me. And although it, I was running all these workshops with a lot of executives, and I would take breaks to take radio interviews for this other project. And so my mind started going in two worlds. And it got to a point where my boss in the management consultancy offered me my dream job, going to South America, learning the language that I love, which is Spanish, and working on the same projects, or staying in Australia and working on this side project that I'd created with some friends. And I remember speaking to one of my mentors, Nick Francis, over dinner. And I told him I didn't know what to do. And he says, Eyal, you've got this problem. It's that every time you get really close to the top, to the peak of what you want to achieve, you stop just before. And it's because you set this ambition, this intention, and everyone around you says, yeah, man, that's awesome, and you're going, they're telling you, you are killing it, you're doing an amazing job. And you get to this point where you really enjoy the crowd around you. You're saying, wow, I don't have to go any further. Everyone loves me. I'm fine. And you never actually hit that peak that you set your intention for. And he said to me, why is that? Why do you stop? And I reflected on it. And I went home that night and I called my mom and I said, is this true? Have I always done this? She said, yeah, when you worked in the lobby firm in the US, you could have made it to the top, but you stopped just before and enjoyed that spot. Or when you moved into this consultant, you went to a certain point, but you stopped just before. And I thought about it that it's actually because you do get in that status of comfort, and you start to think that everybody around you wants you to succeed. But in fact, it's not everyone around you that wants you to succeed. Everyone around you just wants you to be happy. They don't really care if you succeed. In fact, the only person who cares if you succeed is you. So it's up to you to decide if you want to hit that peak. But the thing that was holding me back is the fear of failure. The fear that if I go that extra step, will all these people around me say, he failed, he wasn't, didn't know what he was doing or didn't get it right. And so if you can just crash through that fear of failure, you go to the next step. And so I went home that night and I wrote myself a really long diary message about how I'm about to make the worst decision of my life. I'm going to look back on this day. I hope this company will take me back once I quit, and don't know where I'll be. There's no business model for this new project of mine. There's no way this thing's going to fly. Nobody understands it when I explain it to them. Nobody really thinks that it's going to happen. They just think that I'm a big talker. And I quit my job the next day. And I haven't looked back. I want to tell you a second story about disrupting other people's lives. I want everyone in the room to think about one issue. Think about one issue that burns inside of you. Something that keeps you up at night. Something that you might want to take action on. Maybe it's that idea that you have, that entrepreneurial spirit that you're saying, I'm going to apply it to this. Think about that one thing and burn it into your brain. Now when I count to 3, I want everybody in the room to say the thing, that issue, out loud. Say that idea out loud. I promise I won't steal it. I want you to say it out loud. So think about that issue. Burn it into your brain. When I count to 3, say it out loud. 1, 2, 3. That was the weirdest. I've done this so many times, and it has never been that When I count to 3, I want you to say it out loud. Think about that issue. I want you to shout it out. 1, 2, 3. That's much better. I'm not going for the hallelujahs anymore. But look at that. How amazing is that? All of those ideas, all of those issues flying through the air, crashing into each other. Now imagine if you could take every single one of your ideas and find a team of people around you who would support those ideas and take those ideas to people inside the existing institutions out there who make decisions about that issue right now. That's the reason why we built OurSay. So OurSay was born out of a text message that was sent to me at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was involved in this leadership course, and I'd come home from a very late night on a Saturday, a bit drunk, and I get a text message that says, what do you know about eGov? And I'm reading this text message thinking at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would hope that someone was sending me a more flirtatious text message than what do you know about eGov? And for those who don't know, eGov is about using digital technology to communicate about government services. And I said, oh, I'd actually, as a management consultant, you can become an expert about anything within basically a couple hours just by researching and putting your nose to the grindstone. And so I had actually read about this a fair bit, and I said, yeah, I know a bit. And before I knew it, I was having coffees and dinners with a group of guys that were interested in building this platform that would allow people to crowdsource questions about their issues, and we would put them to key decision makers. And the way the platform works is that anyone can put up a question. Then they can share that question on Facebook, Twitter, other social media sites, and mobilize people behind that question. When that question hits the top and we get to the response, we get leaders to actually respond to that question. And so we've done this a few times. We did it with Prime Minister Julia Gillard, we've done it with the Telstra CEO, we've gotten the AFL CEO to respond to the most popular questions online. And I want to tell you a story about disrupting one person's life in Melbourne as a result of this. And this person's name's Shelley. So I work at Hub Melbourne, which is a collaborative working space. Show of hands, who knows Hub Melbourne? Yeah, we've got the right crowd in here, don't we? So at Hub Melbourne, whenever you're working on something, you always brush against people in the kitchen, or you might be walking past someone and you say, oh, hey, have you heard about this? This is what I'm working on that. And so I passed Shelley, and I knew that Shelley was working on this project that she just started. It was maybe 3 steps in, they were just starting to crawl. And I said, hey, you should put a question up on this OurSay that we're running for the city of Melbourne. And she was like, oh no, we're still not sure how we want to green roofs in Melbourne, and we're still designing the business model, and I don't know if it'll work. And she had all those hesitations that you have when you're just halfway into that mountain, when you don't want to take that full step towards failure, right? And she was basically saying, I don't know, it's not ready, I'm not ready to be public about it, I don't have the messaging right. I said, Shelley, let's do it right now. Let's just write it up. So, she wanted to just procreate, poop, and die, right? And I was saying, no, we're going to do something different. And so she writes her question up and starts campaigning for it. And when the forum came to the close, a councillor from the city of Melbourne have a meeting with Shelley about her question, my life, and gave me some amazing things that you need once you disrupt your life, which was, firstly, I got a team of 5 people that joined me as a result of putting my question up there. In fact, people who voted for my question now work with me. The second thing was I got some funding, because that was the first win I needed on my board. So people said, oh, she's a winner, she wins things, therefore she'll win this fund, and that grant, and that thing. And so now she's got a chain of grants all off the back of having that first little win. And the third thing was that she got her credibility, which is really, really important, especially when you're starting something new, to have some form of credibility. And she was asked by the city council to be involved in a reference committee about environmental issues and eco-innovation at the city level. And so now she's the CEO of Doing It on the Roof, which is a green roofing business, which she never would have put this much effort to had she not taken that first step in disrupting her life. Third story. This is about disrupting the world, or Melbourne. And it involves each and every one of you. So right now, there's an election that's about to happen in Melbourne. Did everyone hear that there was an election called yesterday? Cool. So elections are quite poignant times, because there are times when you actually get to circuit break. You get to break up the normal state of things. Suddenly we're open to new ideas, we're open to new business models, we're open to new ways of doing things. And so anybody can set up a new stream of thinking, a new business, a new something, and the government is all open and ready to do new things with it. And so we have a unique opportunity right now where in Melbourne, the candidates are open to answering your questions. They're actually ready and willing to take the top 3 questions on the OurSay platform, and whatever the top 3 are, they're going to take those to Parliament. They're actually going to take their positions on those issues and defend them in Parliament. And so I challenge each of you to think about that issue that you shouted out, first not so loudly and then you shouted loudly. Think about that issue, and think about putting a question to that to take that first step, to actually start that initial phase of disrupting your life towards the thing that you want to achieve. Because like I mentioned at the beginning, if you disrupt yourself for good, it'll give you purpose, it'll give you meaning. You'll start to connect with people who also care about the same thing that you care about. You'll start to build a momentum behind the thing that you care about, and you'll build the credibility that you need in order to devise that in the real world. And so I challenge you to go to OurSay and go to the Citizens Agenda and put that question up there and have a go at mobilizing people behind it, and you'll see how quickly you become the CEO of the idea that you want to create. Thank you.
I'm going to bang through all the slides he didn't use. Sorry, I like slides. I like slides because I'm one of these, like, I don't know, native storytellers. I like everything to have a story arc, or else it doesn't make sense to me. So Eyal and I were talking about what we should talk about tonight, and Eyal's story is really interesting because it's like this leap from one world into the next. And I thought it was really interesting. I'm not going to tell you about me because I've just been doing this forever. Like, that's maybe a month ago. Like, this is what I do normally. I run a development company that helps other people to do innovation and disruption, all that kind of stuff. So we've got startups like OurSay. I built that, the web bit of it, that is, and government, banking, like big guys as well as little guys, come to us to help them to be a shit kicker. And so that's kind of what I do for a job. I actually do it for a job, in the sense that we have like budget every month in the company that I set up and run that's like, it's literally called the batshit crazy budget. And I get that every month and I'm allowed to spend it on whatever I want because we know that it's valuable. So I think the interesting thing that comes from doing this like every day for the last half decade or something is that I see a shit ton of people do what Eyal did. Most of our clients are that like the entrepreneurial dude at a big company, or there's somebody that's quit their job to follow their dream. I'm pretty proud that I've helped a whole bunch of people quit their job. I think that's a good thing for the world. So I'm going to take you through something I've noticed about this, and I know it's a shitty metaphor, the hero's journey thing, but it's weird how well it applies to this willingly disrupting yourself to do a thing kind of idea. And I found out that it's a joke internally at the company where we say that the first iteration of any disruptive project is therapy, because we've got like tons of clients that go through this disruptive thing, and they don't realize that the first app that they built or the first like a little idea that they launch is going to be kind of lame and pathetic on the first iteration, and it's not going to be the beautiful amazing thing that they thought it would and change hearts and minds. It's like it's iteration 12 or 13 that kind of stuff kicks in. Like with OurSay, it took like a long time for it to turn from a few users to slightly more users to holy shit, tons of people are using this. It wasn't instant. And so it's interesting because I'm used to this, right? Some of you might know this. It's the lean thing, you know, where you build something and you take it out there and you measure how people reply to it and you learn something from it and that changes, and you try and go through this as quickly as you can over and over and over again. I'm comfortable here. Like, I actually get like tetchy and angry when things are safe and happy, and I'm guessing there might be one or two people in the room. The idea of going through this, you know, classic hero's journey of leaping into startup land or disruptive land or side project land or whatever it is looks a little more like this. And I'm down here with like my breathing apparatus, like kicking around, completely happy. But all of our clients do this thing where they like, it's as though they're leaping off a cliff and it's all going to be terrifying and they'll get, it's actually really, really easy, but you don't realize that until you've gone like all the way through it. And I've noticed a few common elements that happen with every person that takes this kind of journey. It always starts with a 2 a.m. text message. It's always like there's, almost all of them can identify the one moment they went, oh, we should mess with this thing over here. And typically, they get a bunch of friends. It happens all the time. Sometimes that bunch of friends is like people that they've been working with at work, and they end up having this little political group of people that are like wasting company time, thinking about how they can use this. It happens all the time. Or it's like the 5 to 9, as he also eloquently put it, and you form this team around an idea. And the thing that we've found has been really interesting is that after the team is formed, they get their supernatural aid. And sometimes people believe, we get clients all the time that are like, we need an app to solve this problem. You know, it's this like, we can fling internet at a problem and it will disrupt the industry and it will be crazy and it will be wonderful and we'll become millionaires. But often the supernatural aid that the innovative person or whatever you want to call it comes up with is often mega simple. Like it's we make PowerPoint slides for people so that they can go and pitch the idea, and it's like, oh my god, you gave it to me and I took it away and it worked and it's all wonderful. Like, often the supernatural aid is the classic like sword and a string so you can get back out of the maze, and that's all you need to go away and start disrupting things. It's not, I don't know, it's not actually that difficult. And once they start to disrupt and they're like doing it way too much compared to their day job and doing it on the side, etc., they get this, I think this is like one of the death points for startups and innovators and stuff, is where if you are not unreasonable in your desire to progress it, that's where you get eaten up in the bog of eternal stench or whatever. It's like the really unreasonable people who go, dude, we can totally get Assange on OurSay. It's not like, no one's going to do that, it's not going to work. Like, I literally have a list of banned words that I put on the whiteboard whenever we consult with our like corporate clients. Things like budget, legal, we can't get it, you're just not allowed to say them. We literally shut people down in meetings if they say any of those words, right? Banned words. And if you are unreasonable, it progresses and you get Assange on OurSay, you get some weird thing pushed through on a budget that nobody thought of. And what ends up happening after you start to do that, you get this moment where the startup person has started to get some like energy and they start to know what they're doing, and they come back to their boss or their dad or their friends or whatever, and they know more than their boss about a new chunk of the world or a new thing or a way that it can work. And this is this other point that's kind of like, I don't know, maybe this is the coming back from the mountaintop metaphor or whatever, but it's this thing where you've got to like be able to turn around to your boss and say, actually, you're probably a bit wrong about this thing and we can do it better. Or it might be the case of turning around to the funders that thought the idea was ridiculous and go, actually, no, I know more about this than you. Because once you start to get to that point as an innovator, and I see this all the time, you get these people that they've got the language, they've got like the team and the resources to actually pull off some of the weird shit that they kind of dreamt up at the start, but because they're now unreasonable. And I see it like people in government, people in banking, we will see them in a meeting and we're like working with them, and there'll be one of these asshole like career project manager people in the room that like, here are your ideas. I will put them into an action sheet and give them to someone else and make them not work. And they come and they go, no, we are not doing that, it's scope creep. And they do it with authority and everybody shuts up and lets them get it done. It's like, it's amazing. And what ends up happening once these people have that, I don't know, they've got the language and the skills and those little wins that prove that they can do it, they get into a position that I think people like Eyal are in, where they become kind of a bit of a master in the startup-y, entrepreneurial, I don't know, be messy world, whilst still knowing how their management consultancy group or their whatever their day job was. And this is where you have some people will make the decision like Eyal of like, fuck it, I'm never going back. Some people, and I think there's an incredible power in it, some people will actually kind of jump back and straddle both sides of the equation. And this is where we'll have somebody that's got like really deep and narrow knowledge of banking or the property world or like, I don't know, something that seems kind of mundane or whatever, and they can take all of the startup-y skills that they've learned at Startup Weekend or learning to code themselves or whatever, and apply it back to their job. And at that point, they become like powerhouses. These are the dudes that like jump left and right, laterally up ladders and get crazy pay raises and stuff because they've got like the guts and the ability to back up their crazy promises. But I think the cool thing about it in this journey down into the water and up again is that once you've gone through it once, you've kind of got freedom to iterate. It's this, you know that it works, and you know that it doesn't explode if you do it. And I've seen a whole bunch of like quite interesting entrepreneurs that just start shrugging off the fear of failure. They start shrugging off a fear of authority. We've got a guy who recently quit his job at a bank to do his side project full time. And he was saying that one of the most powerful things that he did after he realized that he could try a ridiculous project, take all the risk on his shoulders, try and give some of the benefit to other people in the room, and go through it, was that when it didn't balls up and he didn't get fired, he had the freedom to do it again, bigger and better, whether it was internally within the company or elsewhere. And you start to realize that your first startup it's not actually It's not actually the big change. You're not going to make Facebook. It's going to be probably a tiny failure, but you learn a bunch and you realize that the process itself is actually a lot of fun. And then you start to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you're comfortable being uncomfortable, that's when you actually start to get good at doing it over and over and over again. And that's kind of all I got to say. I think we should take some questions and stuff.
You documented the whole hero's journey, sort of very reminiscent of Joseph Campbell. There's another Joseph Conrad, who also wrote about a similar journey in The Heart of Darkness.
Yep.
And my question is, in this disruptive journey, how do you stop yourself from going insane? How do you hold back the crazy?
I think a team. It's all about team. So for me, I've got a business partner who's like was top 1% Melbourne Uni, top 1%, like really institutionalized dude. He's like a complete evaluator, a complete like a naysayer in a really, really constructive way. And so when I'm like close to the cliff of like, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be great, he's like, dude, that's gonna offend everybody. And he kind of just pulls me back a bit. And I think it's like, I've been working for them for like 5 years now, and it's actually been, in having that complete opposite in the room, sanity checking what I do, it means that I think, if I were to be so arrogant, he's learned a lot about being crazy, and I've learned a lot about like containing my ideas in little boxes, like having a budget for crazy instead of just spending all the company money. I think that's the kicker, is having a really good team and counterpoints. If that answers the question at all?
Yep.
Hold back crazy.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely something to be said about team. I think the other thing is being able to put other people in the positions where they're already trained to be that. So like I've had to bring in staff and people who actually fill that role. And I've been really regimented about getting them to do certain things so that now they are waiting for me to say the next crazy thing, and they're actually pushing back on me saying, mate, this is crazy enough, like let's hold back. And so I think it is worth leaning on your team sometimes. Also, dare to pursue like one crazy idea every day, every week, and do it in proportion so they actually do get that kick. Because I think it's important to constantly innovate rather than be stuck on the same thing. And we actually try to put in something new every week or something new every month that's going to really change the way in which we work. And so we're always open to new ways of doing things and changing it on the go.
And just on the, I suppose, importance of team, OurSay was founded by 4 friends who were friends, and then you were elected as CEO of OurSay. And how did that change you personally, being from with a group of friends to suddenly CEO?
Yeah, it's very challenging. You have to start deciding when friend time exists and when business time exists, because suddenly when you're having a really good chat about the footy or something else and somebody brings up, oh, what if we did that with OurSay? And you're like, mate, not right now, like this is not the time for that. And I think it does start to creep into your life. And I've heard people who have mixed reviews about whether or not you should do things with friends or not. And we haven't had that many issues because I think the friendship allows you to have really frank and fearless conversations with each other. It also means that in the most difficult times, you're there to support each other. And for me as the CEO, for me it's been challenging to be able to step up and actually have to manage some of my friends and actually call them out on things that aren't being done appropriately. But they're actually quite responsive because we've been on the journey together. And we know that there is times where we acknowledge this is an emotional issue and we're being too emotional about it, and this is a business decision that we need to do and take a very rigid approach to it, and that's what we do.
So, and just in your experience, what, from the guys you worked with, what makes a good disruptive person? What are the qualities that a disruptive person needs?
I think it's really... so the question, like a good disruptive person that's really disruptive, or a person that's disruptive and good, they're kind of like, they're 2 different questions, because take like Shabeen that we're in, Simon Griffith, really disruptive person, right? Like he operates in the crowd-funded, all the like, he ticks every little startup cliched phrase you could get, and he's this quiet, softly spoken, really humble guy. And I found that those kinds of people make really good disruptive people. They stick at a problem for 12 hours a day until it goes away, and they're humble enough to listen to other people's opinions and things. Those are real powerhouses, whereas like the all talk, no action kind of ultra extrovert, I'm not looking at you meaningfully right now. Like showy kind of startup-y marketing person, they generally burn out and it doesn't work. Or they like suck at getting friends and working with friends, because like every startup is a couple of friends doing unreasonable things together. So I think, yeah, humility and grit.
Final question for me. How do you measure disruption? How do you know you're on the right track? How do you know OurSay is heading where you want it to?
We ask our users. So I guess we have 3 types of users. There's the leaders, there's the media, and the citizens. And it's very hard to quantify at times when you're creating social impact. So if you're trying to get leaders to be more accountable and take the political capital to make bold decisions, it's about asking them. After every single forum, I chase Julia Gillard, or I chase the CEO and get my iPad out and say, how do you find the process? Was it valuable? And we're basically, every single exercise is a chance to quantify what's just been happening and what are people saying about it. Because when you disrupt an industry, you actually see new things emerge that you may not have thought to quantify when you were setting out to do it. But if you know that your core principles are right, if you know that leaders need to be more accountable and have the political capital, if you know that the media needs to slow down, if you know that citizens need to take more ownership and responsibility for the issues they care about, then it's about actually seeing what are the things that fall out of that, and then actually starting to quantify those so that people say this is the sign of success. In fact, most startups, when they go out and do something, they'll actually quickly capture what are the things that are coming out of this, and once they start to project those successes, then people know the full journey of like, if I do this, I press that button, this is the outcome that it creates. And that's part of the startup process, is actually saying, let's try this in the market and see what the outcome is. Same thing in the social impact. What is the social impact it creates if you stick to these core principles?
Throw out to you guys, any questions?
Job to go out and do what they want to do. Do you think that you can really be a disruptor in a big corporate? And then on top of that, what is the environment that you actually need that is going to enable you in that? So what are those keys that really are going to allow you to actually realise that?
That's a really tough question. So I've noticed that a lot of people that will do the entrepreneur thing, they go one of 2 ways. Either they bash their head up against a wall so furiously that they quit, and that happens a lot, or they will try and fail a bunch in one chunk of their little corporate world and then move laterally and up. That's seems to be the kicker, because you can put as many risk grenades in your backpack as you can with the chance of them exploding and gutting your career, or you can take just enough and break some stuff within a certain chunk of the organization or a certain arm of government, let's say. But if you can get some relatively visible and obvious wins out of it, even if you've annoyed some people or you've gotten in trouble, you can often take those wins as part of your personal reputation laterally, either to another business. I've seen people go from Apple through coding, going up the ranks in Apple, laterally over to a bank. For instance, I can think of one guy who's a killer entrepreneur that did exactly that. And it was scoring a job where he's got authority to make decisions about the things because he's done it once somewhere else. I don't know if you can do it upwards in the one vertical. It just doesn't seem to work very well. Or you just quit and do it as a side project.
I think it's a really powerful question. As a management consultant, I used to look for the entrepreneur, to find the person who's going to bring the business in and make the case and actually try to change something inside the system, because that's what we were paid to do, is to create something new. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's really important to understand that you have a strong understanding of the systems and structures, but also that you know your CEO's vision and how to work that system. So it's that political nous to actually say, I know where this organization's heading, I know where I want this organization to head, and then being able to work a lot of it is the politics and the drama to be able to position something and actually create it. I've seen multiple entrepreneurs bring concepts in and get all the right heads nodding and then set something up and then pull the right team around it and walk away and actually have a self-sustaining business within the business, if you will, just off the back of that. With regards to I think you asked a question about the support structure, how do you know? And I think it's kind of, get friends who are better than you or get other friends who are like you, and so finding other entrepreneurs that are doing similar things. And you will find them it might be either in your industry or in other industries, people who are getting awards for certain new initiatives that are kind of out of left field. sometimes at these functions you might meet people who are either former entrepreneurs, maybe like myself or others, and actually just feeding off their energy to know that while you may be hitting the cavemen every day, you actually, there are people out there who still believe that you can change things. I think that entrepreneurs are hugely, hugely valuable, especially for startups, to be able to drive new ideas inside organizations.
Obviously some amazing skills that you developed. I'm not sure about you, but certainly yourself prior to moving into the entrepreneurial startup space, doing your own thing. And I guess for me, what I'm trying to grapple with is, yes, I know it's uncomfortable, you've got to be prepared to take risks and leap into the unknown, but is there a time when it's worth just keeping your head down, staying within the system, building up certain skills in a conventional workplace to then be better equipped to do your own thing? I know there's no fixed and fast rule as to when you'll know, but is there a worse time to leap into doing your own thing?
So, I have one little one with this, which is that nobody ever chooses the right time to have a baby. Like, it's a thing that we constantly come up against. People are like, well, when's the right time to... No one knows. Like, everybody has a baby at the wrong time. When they've got, like, a mortgage and the marriage is a little bit shaky. Everyone does it at the wrong time. Like, somebody that manages to architect having a baby at the right time is a freak genius. And the same thing applies to doing something entrepreneurial or entrepreneurial or whatever. It's like, there's never the right time. You just do it. I don't know. That's an unsophisticated answer.
I think that there's definitely value in staying inside organizations, and there's definitely value in gaining some of those skills. I myself was, as I said in my story, I was very scared to jump out, and I even played the game of like, I'm going to work 3 days here and 2 days there. I'm going to work 2 days here, then 3 days there, and I kept straddling until it hit that breaking point of like, you know what? There's no holding back. And I think it's hugely valuable to like start building the ship that you're about to jump into before you leave the cruise liner, you know? And so to actually say like, yep, there's definitely a couple floorboards there. I don't know if it'll hold me, but I'm going to give it a shot. And just jumping in and be like, oh, it's floating. Put on another one. Put that, and then you start going a bit crazy on that. But actually having that skill, because you get a real strong understanding of what are the things that it's going to take to build the organization, And a lot of the people who come in and work for us, they actually keep telling me, oh, I haven't had the experience that you have to know about where this needs to go next, or what are the systems and processes and things. And having the privilege of being across multiple types of organizations as a consultant, as well as my own consultancy, it was the chance to understand you need these types of structures, you need these types of people, and it's also important for you to know when it's time for you to leave, because you might know that you're a starter, or you're a manager, or you're a finisher, or whatever it is, but you only realize that once you sit inside a really robust ecosystem of people like that. And so that way you can say, you know what, I know that I'm in that entrepreneurial spirit, and once I do that, I step back and I become the salesperson or the something else, and that person becomes the new CEO because they're better at doing that other stuff, because I know that's how it works in some of the larger institutions.
Yeah, I think it becomes obvious. It becomes obvious in the sense that we have a bunch of people that will do 1 day a week. And they'll do 1 day a week on their little startup thing, and then after a while they're spending so much time after hours on it that it just becomes a no-brainer. And that's a really nice problem to have, I think.
You talked briefly about having a mentor as well, and you said you keep stopping before. Just want to get more idea of how you met your mentor, and what you learned from that before starting your startup.
Yeah, I actually got my mentor via, kind of indirectly. I was in that leadership course. I actually missed the one class where he came and presented, and then my friend called me and said, oh, you missed the best presentation ever, you would totally love this guy. And I said, oh, okay, cool, and I just never got a chance to connect with him. I was actually at the graduation dinner for the course, and I gave this presentation about OurSay, but I was really keen to talk to this guy about this road trip that I was planning. And so after giving this great presentation in front of a crowd and saying, everyone, OurSay is the next big thing, do it, I walked up to him and I said, hey, do you want to come with me on this road trip to, across the coast to film renewable energy projects? And he was like, you're a little twat, like, what are you doing? You just pitched to a room full of, like, Melbourne's most influential about this amazing idea, and you have the grind to come up to me and now pitch this other totally random idea? And I was like, oh, did you like the first one? He's like, yeah, I just told your friend that I was willing to invest in that idea off the back of your presentation. I didn't know what the hell you were talking about, but I was willing to support it, And so I ended up kind of stepping back and ended up going for coffees with this guy over a number of times to the point that we built our relationship. But I think the thing that's important in that is that was meant to be a funny story, but people didn't laugh. But the real key is around understanding what are the skills that you want from a mentor, and actually being really clear around what you want to learn from them, and also thinking about what are the things that you can share with a mentor, you know? And so for this guy, I was just really good entertainment. But, you know, the thing that he, you know, there's things that I wanted to learn with him about scale. Like, I knew that he'd run a number of large multinational companies and had scaled from small organizations to big ones. And so I wanted to learn about scale. I wanted to learn how to dream big. And I also wanted to learn how to, like, manage really complex deals, which he'd done in a large scale. And I told him that up front. I literally sat down, I said, these are the 3 things I want to learn from talking to you. And I want it to happen once a month over this period of time, you know, and I want to meet with you once a month if that's okay, and talk about these things, and then present you with challenges that emerge from my business. And he said, of course, you know, happy to. And so mentors won't always say yes, but you want to really understand what are the skills that you want to achieve, try to find people in the marketplace that would help you achieve those skills, and then just approach them, literally send them the email, say what you're trying to do, and really selling yourself into this idea that this will be a fun, mutually beneficial relationship.
Alright guys, if there are no more questions, can you give you another round of applause to thank you guys. And before we wind up tonight, a couple of people we'd like to thank. Firstly, Sharon and Simon and Shabin, who have been very generous in letting us hold our event here. Also TEDx Melbourne and Small Giants, as well as Dumbo Feather. And lastly to you guys for supporting us these last couple of times. We really appreciate you coming down. And yeah, we'll keep you posted on our next events and hope you can join us then. So thank you very much.